Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This, a Heartstopper podcast.
I'm Alyssa. I use she, they pronouns.
I'm Ashley. I use she, her pronouns. And today we're here to talk about who we are and why we're doing this.
Yeah.
So welcome. Alyssa, do you want to give just a little bio of who you are?
Yes. I am Alyssa. Again, I use she, they pronouns. I'm just a fucking nerd. And I love talking about the things that make me happy, like Heartstopper. I first heard about Heartstopper a little bit before the show came out. A YouTuber I really love, Hannah Witten, put the graphic novels in her favorites video. And I was like, that's adorable. That sounds really cute. At the time, I didn't know about the show, but I put the graphic novels in my TBR. And then actually in her Patreon Discord server, people started talking about the show. And I was like, oh, that's getting bumped up the TBR. Apparently the show's really good. So, and then it's really funny because I was really wanting to watch the show and I was sitting at the hairdresser waiting. And I was like, you know what? I'm bored. So I just pulled out my phone and I downloaded the ebook of the first volume. And then I read it. I read the entire, all 4 volumes that were currently out within 48 hours. And then I went on Webtoon and I read the rest of the webcomic that's currently available. And then I watched the show, and I think that all happened within a span of 72 hours.
Yeah.
What about you?
That's a fun journey. I had the opposite. So I watched the show first. But so, first of all, I'm Ashley. Hello. I am a bisexual 31-year-old in Tennessee, and I'm also a huge nerd that loves to talk.
Should I have said that I'm a bisexual 27-year-old in New York?
Only if you wanted to.
Now I have. Also, I should probably say that I'm a teacher because I'm just skimming my notes for episode 1, and that is relevant significantly.
Yeah.
I teach 7th grade, which is like 12, 13-year-olds.
I feel like a lot of this podcast is going to be me saying, if I was a teacher, and then you being like, I am a teacher, and this is how I feel. So yeah, I work on a couple of different podcasts, and I had heard about Heartstopper kind of just like online, people talking about it and how good it was. It was like kind of in my mind, but I struggle to keep up with anything relevant. I'm very pick and choose because I don't have a lot of time. And so it was on my list, but I hadn't gotten to it yet. And then I was editing an episode of Ryan Houlihan's Drag Race podcast and they talked about Heartstopper. Like, it just got brought up, like how well they handled a lot of the issues in the show. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to move this further up. And so like later that week, I was making dinner and I had a bunch of work to do. And I was like, okay, I got like 30 minutes to kill. I'll try out like the first episode of Heartstopper. And then I watched all 4 hours. I did not get back up or do any of the work I had to do that night. I was immediately hooked. And then I rewatched it so many times. And then I found out that you could get the webcomics. They're online for free. And so I read them all, and I read them all again. And then I would just rewatch and reread. And then even at night, like this is how unhinged I got. There's this, I don't know if y'all do ASMR, but there's this ASMR artist that reads the webcomics, like parts of the volumes. And so I started listening to them while I was going to sleep as well. Like, I have a whole YouTube playlist of just Heartstopper ASMR that I can listen to at night. And so, like,
can you send me that link, please?
Yeah, we could even put the link to Cherry's videos in the show notes because they're just so good. They do such a good job of like reading them, but also being like, it's all in whisper format, but you can like feel their emotions like as they're whispering it. And so it's just like highly recommend.
I need something like that in my life.
Yes. So that's how I got here.
It's great. I feel like there was about a month where I just went through this phase of I'd rewatch the show and then I'd reread the comics,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'd rewatch the show, and then I'd reread the comics. And it was like the only thing that I could talk about to anybody. I was like, okay, but have you seen Heartstopper yet? But have you seen Heartstopper yet?
Yeah.
Like, including students. I assigned it as homework to 2 particular students of mine. I was like, you are required. If your parents give you a hard time, tell them. My English teacher told me I had to.
I love that. It's anybody who knows me knows that I have a problem where this is like, it's gonna come up in conversation if you're talking to me. Mm-hmm. I went to a party for Halloween last weekend and we were playing like one of those Jackbox games. Mm-hmm. And it was like, it like randomly picks a player and it was like, okay, if the aliens come down and the first person that they meet is me, then what am I going to say? And like 2 of the answers were like, have you heard of Heartstopper? I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's accurate. So, we obviously can't shut up about it. So we are going to talk at the internet about it now.
Yeah. And I love the way that this came about, because I just like tweeted something about Heartstopper and you saw it and you were like, I've been thinking about starting a Heartstopper podcast. And then I was like, I mean, if you need a co-host, and you were like, that is exactly the reason that I said this.
Yep, that's exactly why I responded. And here we are.
Yes. And it's also so beautiful because we met because of a different rewatch podcast for a different show that is the other half of our personalities.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
And that show is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes. And that podcast is Buffering the Vampire Slayer. Now buffering a rewatch adventure, but always buffering the Vampire Slayer in our hearts.
Yeah, for sure. So moving forward, each episode is going to be focusing on one episode of the show, or it'll be a bonus episode where we focus on something else. Like we're definitely planning a music episode, a fanfic episode. Yes. We have a lot of fun things.
A fandom episode, a bisexuality episode, hopefully a summer book club reading Alice Oseman's entire bibliography.
Yes. Which if you haven't started on, why not read them with us?
Yeah. I admittedly have only read Nick and Charlie. But I've asked for, on my Christmas list, I've asked for the box set of everything.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
So knowing my father and the fact that he buys me everything, this holiday season, I will be reading everything that he's ever written.
I just need love lists and then I'll have them all. But I've slowly collected them. Yeah. I should say, so the show came out in late April, and I didn't start watching until the first week of June.
Yeah, I feel like it was like mid-May, early June when I started watching it as well.
Yeah. It's my go-to for flying as well, because it's like the perfect length for, your first flight. You have a layover, you watch a little bit more.
I love it for just kind of like you said earlier, I've got 30 minutes to kill.
Uh-huh.
You can't say that with a lot of stuff.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that about wraps it up for now. So we'll see you again in 2 weeks for our next episode, which is going to focus on season 1, episode 1, Meet. Moving forward, this will be a bi-weekly podcast by 2 bisexuals. And we are so excited for what we have in store.
Yes, and if you want to follow us online, you can find us at Why Are We Cast on all of the platforms. And if you want to follow me, I am at MythTaken314 on Twitter and Cause I'm Feeling Fine on Instagram. Alyssa, where can everybody find you?
If you want to follow me on Twitter, at the very least for the time being, because presumably Elon Musk is going to run this platform into the ground, I am at Alyssa J. Ryan, Ryan. And on Instagram, I am at Alyssa J. Ryan 814, because the version without the numbers was taken. So until next time, bye.